So welcome to another edition of the Rigby Campfire podcast. It's a great honour for me because Mark has let me take the reins on this show. I'm sitting here with Alex McDonald in Royal Thabane. Alex, welcome to the Rigby podcast.
Thank you.
I'm very lucky. This is the second time I've visited. We're actually sitting in the Rigby room within Royal Thabane, which is a very special lodge and reserve, which Alex will tell us about in a minute. But right behind me, you can see the lodge rifles, which is a fine selection of Rigby rifles. What have we got here, Alex?
Well, there's quite a selection over here. Currently, we've got a couple of 275s, a couple of 416s, 416 Rigby, obviously, and we've got a 300 Win Mag.
Very nice. Very nice. And I can see this awesome logo. Tell me a little bit about that.
So this logo represents the lodge and the reserve, obviously.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of history behind it and an interesting story behind it, how we came about the logo itself and the name of the lodge.
I have to say, the lodge logo looks fantastic, and against the colour case hardened magazine floor plate, they look spectacular.
They absolutely do, and Rigby did a fine job at the finishings, as they always do, and it looks amazing. They're spectacular rifles, and not just coming from myself, but any hunter that comes and joins us really falls in love with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's amazing about the Rigby brand. There are so many different firearms that you could use on a safari, but if you choose to use a Rigby, the journey is as important as the destination, and I think that's really exciting. So, I mean, your clients love the fact that they can, rather than traveling with a firearm, which can sometimes be problematic, we've all been there, it can be a headache, guns lost at our Tambo, and the hermit headache of getting through.
Exactly.
If you've got a fine selection of Rigbys that they can use, that must be something that people like.
No, absolutely. And for us as an outfitter, from our perspective, doing the paperwork and going through the hassles is just as much as for the hunter traveling abroad with his own firearms.
Yeah.
Quite a mission. And having a selection of fine guns at the lodge just makes the travel so much easier and the experience so much more exciting and special, being able to use Rigbys.
Yeah, amazing. And it's such a storied brand with Africa, and we're obviously sitting here in South Africa. Where exactly are we sitting? What's the location of Royal Thabane?
So Royal Thabane is located in the Limpopo province of South Africa, which many hunters are familiar with. So we are located near the town of Thabazimbi, about 40 kilometers away, and it is the bushveld region of South Africa, typically well known for plains game, buffalo, and other big game.
Mm-hmm. And tell me a little bit about the history of Royal Thabane. How come you're here? How come this spectacular lodge exists? What's the story? Because we've had a very interesting couple of game drives, and it's quite like, well, nothing else I've really witnessed in South Africa in terms of a privately owned property. It really is quite spectacular, and the work you're putting into it. Tell us a bit about that, because I think that is quite unique.
So I'll go way back to the beginning. These areas over here were pristine, prime grasslands, savannas, savanna woodlands, and I've actually read some literature and seen some pictures of what this place used to look like way back. And with man coming in, there were a lot of fences being put up, and cattle farmers started in this area. And with that, there was overgrazing and so forth. And fast track up to now, what we are doing is rewilding per se.
Okay, so that's interesting. So if something is overgrazed, just for people that might not understand that concept, the overgrazing wipes out everything, and then you get invasives that come back in, shut the light out, stop anything that's productive for the wildlife from existing.
Absolutely. Your carrying capacity goes from very high on a grassland area or a savanna, way down when there's all these invasive species. And so what we're trying to do, as I mentioned, is rewilding the place, but also rehabilitating it back to what it used to be.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Flora and fauna. So
Exactly.
There's animals walking around here that weren't here prior to you arriving, and they're back to being where they should be, where they evolved, where they've naturally existed since before man came and started settling.
Absolutely, and the history tells us that through natural migrations in this area, certain species that would come and graze here in certain seasons or rain seasons and then move off. So what we've done is look at that and establish which are the key species in the area, which are endemic, and try and focus on that. So whether it is fauna or flora, we're trying to re-establish what it used to be.
Amazing, because I saw an oryx, and typically it's not a species that I would associate with South Africa, or this area of South Africa, but actually you righted that for me, and you said that it's the outer edge of their historic range, so they would have occurred here, which is it's a fact that I wasn't aware of. So it's amazing to see them, and I think they're one of the most majestic of the antelope species.
Most definitely one of the most special, beautiful looking animals, and so them and, for example, the springbuck would migrate into these areas. So we're on the edge of the Kalahari, and they would move through Namibia, Botswana into South African part of the Kalahari, and then out of season migrate back. So absolutely, many of the species that many folk did not think naturally occurred here really did.
It's amazing that there are owners in this area who take such a pride in and are so passionate about rehabilitating the natural landscape and bringing back the wildlife. What's your take on that?
No, absolutely. And what we are doing here, I could not have done without the owners and landowners and folks that invest in these areas, not just as development, but as conservation areas. And like any company, it's about the people, from the top to the bottom, those that fund it, those that manage it, and those that help me to create this amazing environment. One has to give thanks to everybody involved here, and it includes all of our neighbors, the whole community in the area, and for this place specifically, those that have like-minded visions to develop a true wilderness, a nature reserve, and have the same passion for conservation and everything that we do here.
At almost any cost, bring it back, make it right, with that much passion and that much determination, and taking a really long view, not trying to take everything off straight away, but seeing something right into the future. And I think that's, having come back 5 years after my first visit and seeing how much of a change there is here, and you really aren't reaping the full benefit of that change yet, and you may not for another 5 years, but it's about taking that first step in year one to think that through.
Absolutely, and that's most certainly the key to all of this, is that one has to have a long-term vision. And I'm just very fortunate that I've got people around me supporting me and my team in developing this with a long-term vision, and understanding that this does not happen overnight. So having those partners and having those that support base is really what we need, and it's special for this environment.
And it's really great for the animals, and it's, as you say, it's great for South Africa. It's great for all of the stakeholders, whether they be sentient beings or not. Everybody gets to benefit from this, which is amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Whether one's a hunter or not, what we're doing here for this environment is quite special.
So I was lucky enough to visit maybe 4 or 5 years ago, right at the beginning of your journey here, and I have to say it's certainly the bushveld, which really isn't bushveld anymore. It's savanna. Like, you've completely opened it up. You're not just talking a good game, you really have done a magnificent job of opening it up, and you can see the game just seems to be existing in a much more natural way now. And of course, for hunting, that's going to give you a significantly more kind of honest and natural hunt, rather than popping something as it goes across a road in between the thick stuff.
Absolutely. Everything's about the experience as well. So first and foremost, we are about conserving this area. So we look after the fauna, the flora, and at the end of the day, being a hunting reserve, one has to make it conducive to a hunter coming here, and it's about obviously taking it back to what it used to look like, but have that full experience of what the wilderness was back then. And that entails reintroducing certain species that were endemic to this area, bush clearing to bring the land back to what it used to be, as well as expansion. So instead of small areas, which some people associate South Africa to be, we are expanding our hectareage or acreage and creating a large nature reserve.
And so we were talking about that this morning. You actually want to get the status of it being a nature reserve rather than it being, I suppose it's game farm, then game reserve as the scale moves up, and then nature reserve is the next stage. Tell me a bit about what that means for an area.
The long and short of it is protective status. So with human encroachment or any prospect of mines or anything like that, this area or this region and everything within it is protected. So as much as we want to expand, everything that we expand on is a protected area, whether it's the fauna or flora inside it.
Mm-hmm. And the government will, for example, if there's any power lines or there's any mining or there's any infrastructure projects, if it's a nature reserve, that then is protected from any of those infrastructure projects that might be new roads or anything that's happening.
Absolutely. So there's different levels to what can and can't be done. Certain things may be done where it does not impact the environment per se, or not as drastically. But drastic measures will be out of the question if we manage to turn this into a private nature reserve.
Which is amazing, because that truly is locking it up for the future. That is creating generational value in this ground.
Yeah. When
it was, scrubland, it was something that was, as you say, the carrying capacity was so low, and the biodiversity was very different to what it is now. So I think it's an amazing success story. So what does the future hold? What are you trying to achieve moving forward?
So the long-term goal is obviously to preserve what we have over here, as well as expand on that. Whether it's fauna, flora, everything that exists inside here naturally is the key. And when I say that, it's whatever existed here naturally and endemically back before man came into this area with cattle. That's what we want to revert to. And that may require, or it may include, introducing certain species such as rhino to the area again.
Which would be magnificent. And would this have held white and black rhino? What would have been the mix? Both of them?
Absolutely. Different subspecies. So such as, the black rhinos, there are different subspecies. Those that were endemic to this area specifically, that is our goal. We don't want to necessarily mix too much of foreign genetics.
That's amazing. And would elephants, presumably they would, before lots of land being partitioned off, there would have been free roaming elephants through this area as well.
Absolutely.
And across the whole of southern Africa, I guess. But
yes.
And is that maybe an objective to get elephants back at some point?
It is, absolutely. And we will do so once we feel that the property is large enough.
It's large enough to do so.
And one understands what we've seen in certain areas because of human encroachment and restriction to what where the elephants can go.
Yeah.
The destruction, habitat destruction that comes with it. One has to be cognizant of the size of the property and how many we reintroduce to the area. But by all means, we would love to have the full range.
The goal is there to have every predator that would have naturally existed, all of the ungulates, or everything else, coexisting in a kind of perfectly balanced.
Correct.
For the size of property, which is what an amazing vision to have.
Yeah.
And there are other great examples of this. I've just come from the Classerie, which is another great example, which is a stunning area. And I have my kids with me. It was the first time they got the chance to see the Big Five. So it was a really special thing for us to share as a family. And I guess the possibility exists to build this to that point at some moment in the future, which is an amazing kind of goal to push toward.
That is most certainly the goal, and it's not an isolated goal. It's not that we are the only ones in the area doing it. Fortunately, all of the community around here are like-minded, and whereas everything used to be partitioned off, as you said, now everybody is expanding, going larger acreage for a more wild and diverse habitat for wildlife.
Which is exactly what happened with Timbavati and Classerie. And then the Kruger opened their fences to them because they were doing such a great job, which is, that has to be the biggest testimonial that you're doing a good job of a nature reserve, that the national park opens their fences to you. So do you border any national parks here?
We don't currently, but with association of our neighbors and the community, eventually we will border a national park that's nearby to us.
Amazing. Well, this is what a great thing to be involved with. Congratulations on it, because I think that's, taking land that was, in a sorry state post intensive cattle farming
Yeah.
and rehabilitating it and pushing it back towards, you know, having a master plan to create a huge nature reserve with everything existing freely here. So that's amazing. That's a good reason for people to come here. There's another great reason for people to come here, which is the spectacular lodge that the Rigby Room sits within. Tell me a bit about the lodge. How many can it hold? What's the vision for the lodge? I mean, I'm here, I had my family with me. It's amazing. There's a swimming pool, there's a gym, there's game drives to go out and everybody to enjoy. We're, you know, fully engaged with this as a family, which is amazing. What's the sort of idea behind the lodge, and how might it differ from some of the other lodges?
Well, that's exactly the point that I want to touch base on, and how we differentiate ourselves to anybody else is that the lodge itself lends to a blend of modern day luxuries and true wilderness. And that is what we're trying to portray in this environment. And the lodge itself is booked out on an exclusivity basis, where if you are 2 people or 20 people booking out the lodge, you are the only ones here.
So you get private access, basically.
Discretion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it is a stunning lodge, if I may say so myself.
It's spectacular. There's nothing quite like it that I've ever visited. It's amazing.
It's been a long road getting it to where it is now, but it caters to families.
And I guess, and people that appreciate privacy and discretion.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important, isn't it? From a high profile guest point of view, this is tucked away and they can do this very quietly without anybody overseeing.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the guests that do visit us are from all walks of life. Those that have obviously come on safari once or twice, to those who come every year, and for those that want discretion and privacy, this is exactly that.
Yeah. And amazing wildlife, and amazing service, and amazing scenery. I mean, it has got it all. And Rigby's.
Well, that's the cherry on top.
Well, the wine cellar's pretty nice as well.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, so it's, you know, it's you've thought of all of the things that.
Well, that's the thing, is that in today's day and age, hunters are coming over with families and wanting to come over with their families and kids. So one has to cater for everybody. So we have the adventure aspect with having the Rigby Gunroom, the Rigby's itself, having the hunt, but also having photographic trips for the families, for the wives and kids, a wine cellar, a spa, a gym, swimming pool.
Yeah.
So we can, irrespective who comes, cater to any family member.
Yeah, no, which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I think the experiences, we've already been here for a couple of days, and the experiences we've already had are absolutely amazing, ticking all of those boxes. So it's been fabulous, really, really very good. And how many people can you sleep in the lodge? What's the capacity of it?
So we can sleep up to 20 at a push.
And that's in different chalets?
Correct.
With an adjoining room. So I'm in a chalet, double bed with a corridor into the other half. There's 2 twin beds for my kids, which is amazing.
Yep, correct.
And there's 4 of those, is that right? 4 chalets?
There's 4 chalets, each chalet with 2 rooms in, and then 2 villas, private villas, or VIP villas, rather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which are a little bit larger and spectacular views. And what, you know, the place is situated on what we call a koppie, or a hill to anybody else, with amazing views of the grounds, the hunting grounds, and the wildlife that comes and visits at the waterhole nearby. And
and we've got amazing views over to the Waterberg Mountains as well, haven't we? So you've got that classic savanna view up to the tops of a mountain nearby, and we've had different weather systems coming. It's been, you know, the classic romance of Africa. It's amazing, and to have the base of somewhere so spectacular, it's pretty unlike anything else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's most certainly a blend here to, you know, some beautiful woodland areas to savannas, and the views of the Waterberg Mountain, of which the Marrakele National Park is part of. And you know, it's spectacular that everybody around us have like-minded ideas to expand wilderness and restore this area to what it was.
And it's interesting because I drove from the Kleseri to here, so that was a 6.5 hour drive. I got to see bits of South Africa that I've never seen before. I was blessed to see it because it was amazing. That I was blown away by the productivity, the agriculture, the soft fruits, the I mean, it was phenomenal. You know, every valley we drove through, something very different was being farmed, and it looked like it was being farmed on a massive scale. And in amongst that, there's lots of game farms, and South Africa has historically been for a very long time somewhere that has had partitioned smaller game farms with a put and take feel, and that's not what this feels like at all. This feels like something that is very wild, very natural, and I'm happy to hear that there's a sort of progressive movement to try and go back to wilderness and to try to rewild and to try and make it feel perhaps less manufactured, if I might say so, and no disrespect to hunting in South Africa, but you know, the idea of it being as it would be with the species that would be here, I think it will certainly appeal to a certain type of hunter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, there's still the guys that are going to want to go and tick boxes, and good luck to them. That's an amazing thing to go and do. And kind of I started with that, and that's something I was really happy to do. But I think you sort of mature with your hunting into wanting slightly different things, and I think going to somewhere that feels like more of a wilderness area is special, and I think that's what you're achieving here, which is amazing.
No, absolutely, and one has to give credit to where it all began. There's private ownership in South Africa, so the ranchers or the game ranching industry in South Africa had a large role in bringing back certain species and bringing back the numbers.
And I guess showing that there was more value on game than there was on cattle.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, which is inherently better for the world, for everything, for the natural habitat. You know, and rather than it being overgrazed and then you get what you came here to, you get the opportunity to put it back.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to see how it all evolved from completely free roaming areas way back to cattle farms to high fenced game farms where they bred the animals and brought back certain species where there were low numbers, such as the roan and so forth. And through that and through private ownership, we are now able to develop these wilderness areas with those species.
Which is amazing. So that they've had a core part to play in that story.
Absolutely.
And now I guess that feeling of opening fences to have a more natural habitat is the way it's going, and which is fantastic. It's wonderful to see that. And, you know, all of the owners in this area, if they're all on board with that same philosophy, same as Timbavati or Kloseri, you end up with something very special that is a real natural resource, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thank you, Alex. I really appreciate being able to sit down with you.
My pleasure.
Looking forward to another game drive now with the kids, see what we can go and find.
That's
Saw
going to be
some
exciting, for sure.
interesting creatures this morning that I'm sure
We
they're
did.
going to enjoy seeing. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.